about 3 months into opening my clinic space, my business started to suffer. I was doing the same type of communication. I was putting my business around. I had problematic businesses beside me. Every time I went into my clinic space, my own energy was becoming quite insular and I was losing money. And it just got worse and worse. And I didn't understand why.
Well, hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Finding Equilibrium show. Delighted to be here, delighted that you're here, and delighted that my guest today is Renée Longworth. Now, Renée is a Feng Shui consultant. I heard her speak a few weeks ago at a conference. I thought, I've just got to bring her on. I learned a lot from that presentation, and so delighted that you're here, Renée. So welcome. How are you? Where are you?
Hi, Lawrence. Thanks for having me. Yes, I'm in New South Wales around Lake Macquarie.
Lovely. Beautiful. Beautiful. So fascinated, first of all, first question. So a Feng Shui consultant, and I know I want to make sure I get this right, the 40th generation initiated, and I'm going to say the name wrong, but how did you get into that lineage? I'm absolutely fascinated.
Into this lineage. Okay, so right back quite a few years ago, I'm actually a trained energetic healing practitioner, and I went into practice. I was practicing out of a clinic space and everything was going really well for my business. I was building clients, I was getting a name around town, and then I had this opportunity to open my own clinic space, which I did. And then probably I'd say about 3 months into opening my clinic space, my business started to suffer. And I didn't understand why, because I was doing all the things that a business person should be doing. I was doing the same type of communication with my clients. I was putting my business around the area, and it just got worse and worse. I had problematic businesses beside me, and I was losing money. And I also felt every time I went into my clinic space, my own energy was becoming quite insular, to the point where I used to actually sit, because it was a shop front. So I'd sit in the window, like wanting to welcome people in. To every time I'd just go and sit into the healing room, I just started to go into a little cave, and I just didn't understand what was going on. And so I started to read lots of Feng Shui books, as you do, and getting super confused. And so from that confusion, I just decided I'm going to go and study this myself. And so I went on to study at a college in Sydney, or Australian college. And then about 10 years later, I met my master, and I've since studied with him over the course of a few years. And last year, I became initiated, the first group within Australia to be initiated outside of China in this particular discipline.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations. And thank you for sharing that. So let's jump straight in then. So Feng Shui, we all have knowledge of Feng Shui, but one question that definitely got answered when I heard you speak is the role that Feng Shui plays, how it fits into our life. So you've described your story, and there was something off, and Feng Shui became a solution. So I'd love to understand how it does fit into our modern lives.
So in Feng Shui, we have a theory called the 3 lux. And the 3 lux are 3 components of our lives that make up our circumstances. And so one of the lux is called heaven luck. And this is our DNA. This is where we were born into, what we were born into. And we can't change our heaven luck. It's also our astrological natal chart. So again, we can't change that, but we can gain information from our heaven luck. It's also our family, our lineage, where we were born in the world. And so that's very significant. And then we also have our human luck. And the human luck is our choices and decisions. It's what we love, what we're passionate about, how charitable we are. It's our morals and ethics, and it's our mindset. So the human luck component is used quite a lot in Western society to move us forward into success, right? So a lot of people, I'm just generalizing here, only use their human luck for bettering their circumstances or themselves. There are others that dip into, like yourself, into the astrology component to understand yourself better and to understand what sort of cycles that are coming through in your life in order to create better circumstances from that area. But we've also got a third luck that many people in Western society don't really take into consideration, and this is the earth luck. Now, earth luck is everything from global politics. So what we're experiencing now, so we're in April 2026, where there's a lot of global politics that are affecting pretty much everyone in the world at the moment. So that is creating our circumstances as well, contributing to. There's pollution. It's the neighborhood that you live in. It's the country that you live in. And there's a component of choice around our earth luck. Whereas our human luck, it's almost like free will. But with earth luck, we can control it to an extent. And this is where Feng Shui sits under the banner of our earth luck. And so you've got these three components: heaven luck, human luck, and earth luck, and all of them working together depending on, a lot of the time it's depending on your heaven luck, because when we think about people who may not have the opportunity of education, that will influence someone else, like their human luck and their earth luck. So there's this real tension and pushing and pulling depending on where you live, your privilege, you know, where you were born into. But also earth luck can have the ability to override your human luck. And this is your free will. And all of these three components make up your current circumstances. And so when you think about, just say, for example, you have a healthy human being and we put them in a home, and we're just talking physiological here, not chi so much. But if we put a healthy individual into a home that's toxic, that maybe has toxic mold or a high chemical load, and then they live in that environment is undoubtedly going to make that healthy person unwell. And that's how we start to understand how important earth luck is for us. Now, we work on more of a chi level in regards to that in Feng Shui, but it gives you a really good understanding of the dynamics of these three lucks and how important it is to actually bring in earth luck in order for us to have a more balanced life and to create better circumstances for ourselves.
I love that. It all makes perfect sense when you hear it outlined like that. So let's move on and talk about some of the myths, because we've all got a little bit of knowledge about Feng Shui and we think we know. Maybe the question is, what Feng Shui isn't? Because we all know it's about moving things around to some extent, but I'd love you to just share with us some of the myths and some of the errors, if you like, in thinking that we may have picked up along the way.
Yeah, so decluttering, that is not part of classical Feng Shui, because when we think about it, back in ancient times, they just didn't have clutter that we have now. So yeah, we've got the stuff now. Although decluttering is very useful, like it can help eliminate that stagnant chi that we have in our homes. And if we do have a lot of clutter, it can contribute to some of the problematic chi, but it's not Feng Shui. Decluttering is simply decluttering. It's also not interior styling. So we don't generally tell you what color to paint a wall. That may be in some circumstances, but it's honestly, that's not considered feng shui. Putting crystals in the back left corner of the house. I don't know whether you've heard of that, to activate your wealth corner.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, there is no wealth corner in your home. So building wealth in feng shui is actually really quite complex, and you can't just activate a wealth corner and think that you're going to get money coming in. It just doesn't work like that. And feeling, this is a big one. So I hear this a lot from people, and they say, oh, I really love my home. It's my sanctuary. I come home and it feels good to me. So it must mean that it's got good feng shui. And that's incorrect. So classical feng shui is not about feeling. It's about your circumstances. So we want to know not how you feel about your house, but we want to know, well, what's going on in your life? Because that's why we use feng shui. We use it to change your circumstances.
That's so interesting. And this kind of goes back to your own lived experience with the business. So maybe the natural next question is around, how do you know? Like, you knew in your business that something was off. So looking at the person and the circumstances that's actually happening. So what are the problems that we should be aware of that could indicate that the feng shui is not what it needs to be?
Yeah. So I like to get people to think about a timeline, their own timeline. So most people will move houses. There's not a lot of people that spend their entire adult life in one house, but you can actually go back and maybe consider, well, the last house that I lived in, what was the type of circumstances that was going on for me there, as opposed to what's occurring for me now? And it really can be a very big aha moment for a lot of people to go, oh, wow, I didn't realize. I had one person say, well, myself and my family and marriage was going really well. And then we moved to a bigger house and we got all these brand new spanking things, but everything just collapsed. Like, our marriage fell apart. I was getting sick. My children were getting sick. So when we have activated problematic chi in a home, you can or may experience things like loss of wealth. So we generally have three things. So it's wealth, relationships, and health.
Okay.
So anything under that banner, which is almost everything in life, right? Yeah. So there could be problems with your health, especially if there's multiple people getting sick or a very serious illness or chronic illness. And fertility. So I'm trained in fertility feng shui. And so that's a specialized field. Not all practitioners are trained in that. But we can see by looking at someone's floor plan whether a home or not can support and nurture the internal chi of the couple that's wanting to carry a healthy baby to term. There's also obviously money loss, but there's not only money loss, but like robbery, like people actually taking money from you. There's what we call robbery shards that could be activated in a home. Bullying is a big one that I get a lot of clients saying, well, I'm being bullied at work, or someone's trying to take me to court for something that I haven't done, or my kids are constantly bullied at school. And there's certain things that will show up and tell us exactly why in a floor plan. Then, yeah, and then there's breaking up of relationships. I don't know whether you've ever heard of divorce houses.
No, I haven't. How interesting. Divorce houses. So, wow. So those circumstances are very much informed by where you're living at the time. It's interesting. So where my brain goes when I hear you speak is So if that's so a consult with a client and the client says, I've got relationship problems, I'm being bullied at work. So they kind of list some of the challenges that they're experiencing. So your solution to that would be to look at their environment and to understand exactly, okay, so let's kind of go there. I'm just curious to understand how you would understand how the home environment is impacting, let's say, the bullying at work. Let's kind of pick that up. How would you know by looking at their home environment that circumstance is occurring?
Yeah, sure. So Feng Shui is actually a calculation of qi. It's scientific. It's cause and effect. So we know in certain circumstances, if we put X qi and then we also see Y qi and they come together in a particular formation, we're going to get this result. And so we can look at a floor plan and we put our compass, our lopan on it, which is aligns with all the astrological elements as well. So not only is it a compass direction, but it's every part of the home is linked astrologically. Then we also look at the astrology of the person, and we're able to link the person to the home through the astrology, but also purely by mapping or putting the chart on the floor plan, there's particular formulations or formulas that we know if that house is facing that direction, it will have a particular chi. And not only does it have that chi, it's like, well, how much is it activated in the house? So every house is going to have problematic chi. It just depends on if it's activated. And if it is activated, how much is it activated? It may be just activated a little bit, and so you don't get too much. Or there could be like multiple activations in a particular area of the house that just happens to link to the person being bullied. So we have things like robbery shas, targeting chi. There's also other homes that may contribute to a higher possibility of accidents and injuries. And we know that as, what we've studied and what we hold as lineage holders of this Feng Shui.
Amazing, fascinating topic. So where my mind goes next is, because I understand, or I'm getting the picture that Feng Shui is looking at the individual and their circumstances and then their home environment and then joining together, and then there'll be some recommendations and some changes around moving the house. This is kind of where our general knowledge lies. So I understand it's going to be a very tailored and specific response. But are there any general tips that you can share with us just to help people to optimize their environment that may well be able to alleviate some of the circumstances or some of the areas that they may be feeling out of equilibrium at this point in time?
Yeah, so I want to really emphasize that every home is an individual, just like you and I. So it's in regards to providing general information, yes, we can, but if it's very specific, like the bullying and things like that, then every home needs to be looked at and analyzed individually. But there are certain things that we can do. And one of the main things, and I find it interesting because you're talking about I can't say that word.
Equilibrium.
Is that the center of the home is that. So the center of the home is like the yin and yang symbol. This is where all the chi, if we can get the chi to get into the center of our home, it helps provide the source chi for us. It also assists with providing equal chi to the rest of the house. So it's like a heart, the center of the home. So if you locate that center of your home, what we want there is it to be open, nice and open. We don't want clutter there. We don't want any activation there. So if we activate something in the center of our home, we're actually activating everything in the home but good and bad, good and problematic, because it activates every single component of the house. And so having it nice and open and not activated will help provide you with more opportunities, a sense of being more open to the world. Because if we think about, just imagine a house and they've blocked it off somehow, that center. It's a room, it's a fully walled room, and it's bang center in the middle of the house. If the chi can't get there, how does it make you feel? Probably feel like you want to stay inward. It probably feels like you don't like to share too much of yourself or interact with the world too much.
Like and so stuck energy.
Yeah. So one of the things that we try and do is open up the center, allowing that chi to be very open. It's very important, the center of the home.
Okay.
Yeah. And the front of our home is also really important, because that's where the chi can collect. So we call the front of a property, just say it's a generic suburban home. I know not everyone lives in that type of home, but if we have a nice open yard, what that does, we call it a ming tang. It helps collect the chi. So we're able to bring in energy from outside. This is the opportunities. If we have a very narrow passage, then it's constricted, right? The chi is like squeezed, so it makes it very very difficult to get ahead and to be successful. So there's what's another one? The black tortoise. I think we were talking about this.
We mentioned this. Yeah.
So in Feng Shui, we have these traditional terms. One of them is called the black tortoise, and it's one of the most important things this is called form school, what we've just talked about. Form school Feng Shui is one of the most earliest Feng Shui schools. So as a consultant, we not only look at one school, but we layer all the information and we see what the priorities are. So that's why a lot of people get confused when they read Feng Shui books, because they're taking only one piece out of one school, whereas we use the collective of that information. And form school Feng Shui was the ancient masters would travel the land sometimes for 20 years to find the perfect spot for the emperor to build his empire. And so the black tortoise is regarded as, in old school Feng Shui, a mountain range. And so what happens is that the chi is able to come or use that ming tang to collect the chi. But if it doesn't have a good black tortoise, like my wall here, then where does the chi go? It just goes, right? It doesn't maintain it, doesn't collect it, it doesn't hold it or anchor it for the people living in that space. So having a good black tortoise in modern times would be, in a suburban house, having something behind your home that creates a solid wall. That could be trees, it could be another building. That's mainly what you'd probably see.
Something solid to protect the chi energy that's coming through.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I could ask you many more questions, but I'm conscious of time. So this has sparked a lot of interest in my own mind, and I'm sure in lots of people who are listening to this. Where can people find out more working with you? So first of all, and I know you're in Australia, New South Wales, and a lot of people listening to this will be in different parts of the world. But how can people find out more about the work that you do?
Yeah, so they can go to my website. I can work locally, but with technology, I also can work internationally with Feng Shui. And I also have a podcast, the Return Home podcast, and I talk about all this sort of Feng Shui stuff as well.
Yeah, amazing. We must sign up to that. I'll put those links below. So last question, which I ask all of my guests, it's called the Finding Equilibrium Show. And of course, that can mean different things to different people. But I'm curious what it means to you.
Yeah, so such a big question. I would say for me, I use my home to find that balance. And so the way I see a home is an extension of ourselves. We know that we can hold on to patterns internally and be the home and the space that we take up or we have chosen to live in is a reflection of ourselves and all of our patterns. So I tend to my home to find that balance. And also, I know it has a knock-on effect with my children as well. And yeah, I can't get away from Feng Shui. I will always go back to that. If something's going a little bit awry, I always go, well, what's going on? What have we changed in our home? What have we brought into the house? Where do I need to recheck all of my calculations? Yeah. Or astrology as well. I do Chinese astrology because obviously it's intimately linked with Feng Shui. So I always look at the cycles that we're in because we're not always going to be balanced because we always have cycles. We always will have challenges and we will always have the positives as well. But just having that understanding, having a look at our heaven luck and our earth luck, and then using our mind, like just using all the three lucks there. That's the most simple thing.
I love that. I guess what I hear when you speak is sometimes when there are problems and challenges, and we've all got pressure, challenges, and change in everyday life. But whereas sometimes we're looking outside, if you like, for the solutions, or what you're doing is maybe the solutions are much closer to home than you actually think. And so I love that. I love that. One last question that just occurred to me: when you travel, do you take that with you, like when you're deciding where to stay and some of those things, or should we not worry so much about that? Is it more about our permanent home that is the most important focus? Because we travel, I travel, we stay in different places, hotels, etc. I'm just curious how you approach travel personally.
I love this question because most people don't ask me this. It's all to do with your home. It's the same as business. I do business Feng Shui. I go to someone's business site and we can do the Feng Shui for that business. But if their home is still out, if there's still problems at home, this is your heart. This is your hub.
I understand. So it all comes back to the heart. So you can travel physically anywhere and you can work, but if your heart is not optimal, then you will still experience the challenges. I love it.
For example, if you have a home that has a high potential of accidents and injuries that we can see in your Feng Shui, and you go out on a holiday, you're still influenced by that qi.
Got it. That makes perfect sense. So I guess the big shift, which I've made myself in the course of this conversation, is we often look at our home and try and optimize it in ways to make it feel good, going back to one of those, but that's not where we're actually focused. Wow. Thank you, Renée. I really appreciate you taking some time to share your knowledge and your wisdom with us. Fascinating conversation. We must bring you back and continue, because I feel we're just scratching the surface and there's a lot more that we can cover. But thank you so much. And thank you for listening, and look forward to catching up again very soon. Bye for now.